Hello, Lily and whoever else is watching. Got another story for you. Alfie gives a hand. And when Luke was your age, and he sometimes used to come and spend a day with me, he used to really love me reading him these Alfie books. And I used to read them to your mum, so I hope you like this story too. One day, Alfie came home from nursery school with a card in an envelope. His best friend, Bernard, had given it to him. "Look, it's got my name on it," said Alfie, pointing. Mum said that it was an invitation to Bernard's birthday party. "Will it be at Bernard's house?" Alfie wanted to know. He'd never been there before. Mum said yes, and she told him all about birthday parties and how you had to take a present and about the games and how there'd be nice things to eat. Alfie was very excited about Bernard's party. When the day came, Mum washed Alfie's face and brushed his hair and helped him put on a clean t-shirt and his brand new shorts. There she is getting Alfie ready and brushing his hair. "You and Annie Rose are going to be at the party too, aren't you?" asked Alfie. "Oh no," said Mum. "I'll take you to Bernard's house and then Annie Rose and I will go to the park and come back to collect you when it's time to go home." "But I want you to be there," said Alfie. Mum told him that she and Annie Rose hadn't been invited to the party, only Alfie, because he was Bernard's special friend. "You don't mind me leaving you at nursery school, do you?" she said. "So you won't mind me leaving you at Bernard's house either, as soon as you get there." Mum had bought some crayons for Alfie to give Bernard for his birthday present. While she was wrapping them up, Alfie went upstairs. He looked under his pillow and found his old bit of blanket which he kept in bed with him at night. He brought it downstairs and sat down to wait for Mum. "You won't want your old blanket at the party," said Mum when it was time to go. But Alfie wouldn't leave the blanket behind. He held it tightly with one hand and Bernard's present with the other, all the way to Bernard's house. When they got there, Bernard's mum opened the door. "Hello, Alfie," she said. "Let's go into the garden and find Bernard and the others." Then Mum gave Alfie a kiss and said goodbye and went off to the park with Annie Rose. "Would you like to put your blanket down there with the coats?" asked Bernard's mum. But Alfie didn't want to put his blanket down. He still held on to it very tightly. Bernard was in the garden with Min and Sam and Daniel and some other children from nursery school. There they all are. "Happy birthday," Alfie remembered to say, and he gave Bernard his present. Bernard pulled off the paper. "Crayons, how lovely," said Bernard's mum. "Say thank you, Bernard." "Thank you," said Bernard. But you know what he did then? He threw the crayons up in the air. They landed all over the grass. "That was a silly thing to do," said Bernard's mum as she picked up the crayons and put them away. Then Bernard's mum brought out some bubble stuff and blew lots of bubbles into the air. They floated all over the garden and the children jumped about trying to pop them. Alfie couldn't pop many bubbles because he was holding on to his blanket. But Bernard jumped about and pushed and popped more bubbles than anybody else. "Don't push people, Bernard," said Bernard's mum sternly. One huge bubble landed lightly on Min's sleeve. It stayed there quivering and shiny. Min smiled. She stood very still. Then Bernard came up behind her and popped the big bubble. Min began to cry. Bernard's mum was very cross with Bernard and told him to say he was sorry. "Never mind, we're going to have tea now, dear," she said to Min. "Who would you like to sit next to?" Min wanted to sit next to Alfie. She stopped crying and pulled her chair right up close to his. You see? Poor Min. For tea, there were sandwiches and little sausages on sticks and crisps and jellies and a big ice cake with candles and "Happy Birthday, Bernard" written on it. Bernard took a huge breath and blew out all the candles at once. Everyone clapped and sang "Happy Birthday to you." Then Bernard blew into his lemonade through his straw and made rude bubbling noises. He blew into his jelly too until his mum took it away from him. Alfie liked the tea, but holding on to his blanket made eating rather difficult. It got all mixed up with the jelly and the crisps and it got covered in crumbs. After tea, Bernard's mum said they were all going to play a game. But Bernard ran off and fetched his very best present. It was a tiger mask. Bernard went behind a bush and came out wearing the mask and making terrible growling noises. He went crawling around the garden, sounding very fierce and frightening. Min began to cry again. She clung on to Alfie. "Get up at once, Bernard," said Bernard's mum. "It's not that kind of game. Now let's all stand in a circle, everyone, and join hands." Bernard stopped growling, but he wouldn't take off his tiger mask. Instead, he grabbed Alfie's hand to pull him into the circle. Bernard's mum tried to take Min's hand and bring her into the circle too, but Min wouldn't hold on to anyone's hand but Alfie. She went on crying. She cried and cried. Then Alfie made a brave decision. He ran and put down his blanket very carefully in a safe place underneath the table. Now he could hold Min's hand as well as Bernard's. Min stopped crying. She wasn't frightened of Bernard in his tiger mask now she was holding Alfie's hand. She joined in the game and they all danced round together singing, "Ring a roses, a pocket full of posies, a tissue, we all fall down." Afterwards, Alfie and Min joined in with some more games and ate ice cream and popcorn and bounced balloon with the others. Alfie had such a good time that his blanket stayed under the table until Mum and Annie Rose came to collect him. "What a helpful guest you've been, Alfie," said Bernard's mum when Alfie thanked her and said goodbye. "Min wouldn't have enjoyed the party a bit without you. I do wish Bernard would learn to be more helpful sometimes. Perhaps he will one day." On the way home, Alfie carried his blanket in one hand and a balloon and a packet of sweets in the other. His blanket had got a bit messy at the party. He had been rather in the way too. Next time he thought he might leave it safely at home after all. Well, there we are. And I've got lots of other stories about Alfie. So I hope you liked that one, darling. And it was lovely to see you at the weekend, to get all those cuddles from you and from Luke and from Tom. And I'll see you all very, very soon. Love you lots. Bye.